Boom, boom, boom. We should be live. What is going on, everybody? Welcome, welcome. I finally have got the Part 107 course going live on my channel. I hope you guys are all having an awesome Thursday evening. I know it has been a good night for me. I'm getting more and more settled into the studio here. Like, I'm actually using the boxes in my bookshelf to store drone parts, and I've spent most of the day actually setting up the PC, as well as getting everything organized and into those shelves. And the good news is I've got some goodies to go into those shelves, like the X-Hover Stingy V2 Forged Carbon Edition. That's right. Them forged carbon pieces are in stock and shipping. I've been seeing posts all over social media with fresh Stingy forged carbon builds. I'm loving what you guys are doing. I need to get out there and repost some more stuff, so be sure to tag me and let me see what you're doing with these quads, because it's awesome stuff. Whew. All right, so if you didn't catch the title, or you don't know, or the thumbnail, or whatever, if you just like found your way into this, let me just give you a quick heads up. Number one, this is going to be the Airspace portion of my Part 107 online course. Now, the 107 course is all done through Patreon and Discord, and we're going to be joining all the participants over on Discord in a minute. I just wanted to get out of the way a couple of announcements. Whoa, what up, Drone Excursions? Thank you for that super chat. So yeah, I just wanted to get out a couple of the things. Now, this isn't going to be a weekly stream for the Part 107 course for just everybody on the YouTube channel. Wait, we dropping some frames. Hang on. I'll talk while I go. Nope, wrong. It's not going to be a Part 107 weekly stream on the channel. It is going to be a monthly stream for my personal channel here. If you want to catch it every single week and make it a weekly thing, then you have to sign up for the course through Patreon. It's $50 a month. The idea is that you're going to knock it out within the first month and spend the $50, come run the course, get your Part 107, and be done with it. That is your goal and my goal. So if you want to join in on the course next week, you like what you see here, the way to do that is to go over to the Patreon, link in the description, and sign up for it. Okay, now, that being said, one more thing. The frames are in. If anyone who has pre-purchased a Stingy V2 Forged Carbon build, that's right, I am selling personal builds that I'm going to be doing. Those are fine. I finally got the frames. Putting my phone on Do Not Disturb so I can... doesn't distract me anymore. And this weekend I'm going to do the first builds and making a build video, so expect a Stingy V2 build video coming from me in like the next week or so, along with a tuning video showing exactly how I'm setting these guys up and tuning them. And I've already sold all 5 of my first round of orders. Once those are shipped out, I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and if you're interested in getting a quad built and tuned and signed even by me, then those are going to be available again very shortly. Okay, so sound goes up and down. I don't know. What can I? All right, so without any further ado, I'm going to hop into the live chat over here. What is up, guys? If you are part of the 107 course and you're in here for the live chat, the quick heads up, there is going to be a delay between what is on the YouTube video and what is in the chat. You may want to mute the YouTube video and listen through this, but okay, more volume, he says. You know, I was looking at it and it seemed like it was peaking a little bit too high and coming down. All right, I'm going to just tweak it a little bit more. I love having I'm using the Deity D3 mic, and I love having the controls for that right there on the knob on the back of the mic. But all right, man, it is still dropping some frames. I have a feeling that what I've got going on over in here in Safari is just wrecking it. How's the stream looking, everybody? If it looks like crap to anybody, let me know and I will do what I can to try to get the frame rates back up. But the problem is that in order to show you guys the charts and stuff for the airspace in a minute that we're going to need to do to go over this stuff, I kind of have to have like a pretty intensive Java thing. I think it's Java, whatever it is. It takes up a bunch of resources running on this other screen. So, without any further ado, we're going to just dive right in. Now, what tonight's stream is going to be all about is going to be airspace. Primarily, what you need to know about airspace in order to pass your Part 107 written exam, and a little bit mostly geared towards drone pilots. There are certain aspects of it that I'm going to be like, hey, this is what you need to know about it, and you don't need to know anything else. Like, for instance, Class A airspace. Let's just dive right in over here. This is a handy visual coming from the FAA themselves. They put out a lot of little graphics like this, and I find this one really useful when we're breaking down the different types of airspace, where you will find them, and a way to visualize this. Because the charts, it shows you like a 2D image, and it can be hard to hard to translate that 2D image into a 3D like visual. And so I think these are very helpful. Thank you for that, Shane, by the way. Now, first of all, Class A airspace is up high in the air. It's from 18,000 feet MSL to 60,000 feet. Now, MSL means mean sea level. That is an elevation above the average sea level. Okay. Now, there are two types of measurements of height, like either MSL for above the average sea level, or AGL for above ground level. Those are the two ways that we're going to be talking about airspace today. If you think about AGL, it's going to follow the contours of the Earth. Like if you have a mountain, 700 feet AGL will go up like right up above that mountain, just like that. Whereas if you are 700 feet MSL, the mountain would poke through that level. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. Now, our Class A airspace, there's no drone operations whatsoever. It is for, actually, there may be at some point later, but for FPV pilots, no drone operations at all, because it is only for aircraft that are on an IFR flight plan. And all aircraft in Class Alpha airspace are under air traffic control. So none of them are, you can't have, I'm going to, can I mute? I don't think I can mute the alerts so I don't get distracted. I'm just going to keep going. Thank you for the super chat. And so none of the aircraft that are in Class Alpha airspace are just freewheeling it, whereas everywhere else you can fly under. It's the difference between visual flight rules and instrument flight rules. In essence, the aircraft are either operating by looking outside of the window of the plane, or they're operating by looking at instruments in the plane. Okay? And if you're on an IFR flight plan, you're in constant communication with air traffic control. They know where you're going and what your intentions are at all times. Whereas somebody flying VFR is a lot more like us flying FPV. You just go out there, you see and avoid, and you don't hit stuff, ideally. Okay. Now, Class A airspace is not shown on any sectional charts, so there's no questions about what it looks like on a chart because it's just always there. It's always from 18,000 feet to 60,000 feet, or flight level 600. Once you get up above 18,000 feet, they refer to these as flight levels. They just chop off the last two zeros, and you got flight level 350, that's 35,000 feet. Flight level 200, 20,000 feet. I used to fly up there all the time with the airliners. All right. Now, Class A is the most restrictive airspace because it's only it is only IFR flight plans and under direct control of air traffic control. Now, the next most restrictive down is going to be Class Bravo. As you can see right here, it's the big yellow one, right? And Class Bravo has, it looks kind of like an upside down wedding cake. Now, this little hash mark that you see at the bottom, that's supposed to be runways. That's supposed to be depicting an airport. Now, the inner ring goes from the surface up to a specified height, and then you have a shelf, and then you have maybe a third shelf. And each one of those is going to have their elevations depicted. Now, typically, well, we're not get into just the typical of the airspace right now. Now, when you look at a sectional chart, this is a sectional chart. There's a ton of stuff going on, as you can tell. This is the Atlanta area, and right here, oh, zooming in, that is the Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. Now you can see that the Atlanta airport has like rectangular shelves, and a lot of them. These blue solid lines depict each layer of the shelf. Now, the innermost layer is this one right here. And then you are told what the elevation of that section is in these numbers right here that are also in solid blue, right? So it says from the surface to 12.5. They, again, kind of like our flight levels that we were talking about earlier, they just chop off the last 2 zeros of the elevation here. And so this is going, the airspace in the centermost section is going from surface to 12,500, right? And as you step out in rings, it's going to get kind of progressively higher and higher. Now, the reason that they have these rectangles in Atlanta is because of the orientation of the runways. If you've ever been there, all of the runways are parallel and they're all running east to west. And so they kind of just, all the planes are climbing out and descending like this, right? So you have progressively smaller rectangles closer and closer to the airport. Some airports that have a lot of different angled runways will have like more circular shelves. Every class Bravo airspace is shaped a little bit differently because that airport, because these are going to be your busiest airports in the country. Think Atlanta, think Chicago O'Hare, think New York LaGuardia and JFK, all of those types of airports, right? So the main thing to take away from this is that it is depicted on sectional charts by these solid blue lines, right? And that your elevation for the section, little squared off area that you are looking for is, yep. I don't know what's going on, guys. I am at, well, let's drop the bit rate again. People are saying it's kind of blurry. I'm going to try to do my best here. I'm going to drop the bit rate and hopefully it will clean it up some. Yeah, I'll turn off the picture-in-picture for right now too. See how that goes. So we're doing multiple fixes all at once. It's still dropping a ton of frames. Real quick, let me just don't have to have going in the background. That's always a good idea. And yeah, I had Chrome open for no good reason. I feel like that might be our whole culprit. No. It's still going and dropping on me. Okay, I got I have confirmation from Discord people that they are not seeing just the same amount of blurriness. So fingers crossed that everything continues to look good on this end. I will just leave it just the screen for now. So, okay. Are you allowed to fly in Class Bravo airspace? That is the most important question. Yes, you are, but only with proper authorization. Now, in order to get the authorization and the only time to keep in mind is since we can only go up to 400 feet, the only time that you're going to run into the Class Bravo airspace is going to be on this innermost ring, right? Is going to be on this innermost ring. Okay, so and in order to get authorization to fly in that area, you're going to need to use the LANCE system, right? That's the low altitude authorization system that the FAA has rolled out. Now, I have a video all about how to request authorization through the LANCE system. If you want to check that out, you can find that on my channel. And we're going to go back over here to the, why do I keep doing that? Nope. Okay. I've lost my mouse. There it is. Okay, back over to our image. Now, the next step down is Class C airspace, or Class Charlie. Now, it also looks like an upside down wedding cake, but it's a little bit more simple of a layout, right? It's only got 2 shelves typically, but it's also designed for specific airports. And at Class Charlie airspace, we can also fly in near the surface, but it's only going to be through proper authorization, either through a specific waiver or the Lance authorization system. Airspace authorizations. If you need to operate, say, on an airport, like you're going to get hired to do runway inspections or something, to do something like that, you're going to have to go and get a waiver specific to the operation that you're doing. And that gets a lot more involved. It's not something that we're going to cover here. The Lance authorizations, I've already got a video on that. I think that's going to cover it for there. I was thinking about that. Like, I kind of wish I had done a little bit of a screen recording on my phone, but you know what? We're not going to worry about it too much. Okay, so now to, am I? No, okay, I am on that. So let's go find our Class Charlie airspace. And to do that, we're going to go over here to the Birmingham airport. Now, Class Charlie is depicted on your sectional charts as these solid magenta lines, okay? And the altitude for each section of the Class Charlie airspace is done in the same way with these numbers here. The number on top is the top limit of the airspace, and the number on bottom is the lower limit of the airspace. That is, so for this section, this shelf, if you would, and everything inside of these lines, the airspace exists from 2,400 mean sea level to 4,600 mean sea level, okay? And in the inner circle, we have Class Charlie from the surface to 4,600. And what you'll notice is the top section of this whole area is very uniform. It goes up to 4,600 feet everywhere. Just like our image over here, the airspace is looking like, oh man, where's my mouse? I can't, over, there we go. Just like our image here, the airspace looks like a upside down, you all right there, buddy? The airspace looks like an upside down wedding cake. Now, the next level down, there are 3 main types of airspace that deal with towered airports. That means there's a control tower at the airport where full-scale airplanes are talking to a controller. There's also a lot of airports that don't have a control tower, believe it or not, where the pilots just talk to one another. Those are known as non-controlled airports, right? And on your sectional chart, there is a really good way to tell the difference. It is that an airport that it has a control tower is going to be blue, where they show the little runways. All right. And a non-towered airport, oh, I'm dragging, got my mouse on the wrong thing. Okay. So we got blue here, and a non-towered airport, drag over here, is going to be magenta. Now you also notice that this one has, that one of them has a, it shows the runways, and one of them has just a little solid circle. Now, they change from having a solid circle to having the runways depicted that when I believe if it's over 4,600 feet, if I remember off the top of my head. Let's see, how do I lock down? I have to be able to lock down to the sectional chart. There's All right, I'm just trying to figure, okay, there we go. The reason I wanted to lock in here is so that I can zoom in to the legend. Now, this is going to be a great lesson to you guys, namely because if you're taking your Part 107 exam, there's going to be a lot of questions about the sectional chart. And in the book of diagrams that you get, the very first page, I believe it's on the first page, has the legend in it. So a lot of these questions are going to be answered right here in this. So like I couldn't remember exactly what distance it goes from a circle to a to this. What we can see is that if it has a hard surface runway from 1,500 feet to 8,000 feet long, it shows up as a little circle. If it has a hard surface runway greater than 8,069, I was way off, such a random number. It's going to have one of these just like this. Now your blue ones mean they have a control tower. Magenta means that there is no control tower. It is an uncontrolled airport. All right. So I'm just throwing in a little bit of extra knowledge about the sectional charts as we go over what stuff looks like on the sectional here. And we'll zoom in on Chattanooga for a second. So Chattanooga also has Class Charlie airspace. It is depicted by these solid magenta lines. It's the top of it, so you see in every section is at 4,700 feet. Remember, they just chop off those last two zeros. In the center, it goes from the surface to 4,700, and on the outer rings, it goes from 26 to 4,700. It's just different altitudes for the different sections. Where if you want to go and look at sectional charts, I am currently using skyvector.com. You can buy them, the paper charts, at your local airport. There's probably a number of other resources to look at these online. This is just one of the handiest ones that I've found from when I was doing the quad camp streams for looking at these. Now, all right. Where are we at? All right. So the last type of airspace that has to do with towered airports is going to be Class D, right? And Class D airspace is the simplest one. It looks pretty much like a soup can. You can see it over here on the right side of your image. It is just a ring around the airport, okay? And it looks like, on your sectional charts, it looks like, zoom out and find one. There, I see one. So this is Tuscaloosa Airport. Notice that it has the round thing, meaning that the runways are not over 8,069 feet. And it also is blue, meaning it's a control towered airport. And it is circled by this blue dashed line. Now that blue dashed line shows you the lateral limits of the Class Delta airspace, and the elevation for that airspace is going to be this number right here, 2,700. Again, just chopping off the last two zeros, right? 2,700, and that's going to be the upper limit, because since it's just a soup can, it goes from the surface to that altitude. And that's how Class D airspace looks. Now, that is going to be all of your the airspace having to do with controlled airports, but we also have non-controlled airports and a little bit of different variations. Now, the other two types of airspace that we have to talk about are Class G and Class E. Now, a good way to remember this is Class G is always up against the ground, and it is the only one of these airspaces that is completely uncontrolled. Class G is non-controlled, nobody's controlling it, IFR, VFR traffic going through it, they're not talking to anybody. Now, Class Echo, that's the E, that's everywhere else. As you can see on our graph here, it just fills in all of the area above the other airspaces. Now, Class G varies in its thickness. It always hugs the ground, and the top of it is always stated in an elevation AGL, or above ground level, versus MSL, because the ground level changes, and if you're going to have like this thin layer right above the ground, it has to be through AGL. Now, typically what you will find is in 99.99% of places, you have ground, then you have Class G from the surface up to 1,200 feet AGL. Now, at near some airports that have instrument approaches, it could be a controlled airport, it could be an uncontrolled, either they will drop the Class Echo airspace down to either 700 feet or down to the surface. Now, the reason for that is because that airport has instrument approaches that go on. So they want to have a type of control in this case, coming down either lower to the ground or to the surface so that they can keep the airplanes that are flying by looking at the instruments away from planes that are flying just by looking out the window. And one of the reasons that that's also important is that in Class G airspace, airplanes can fly much closer to the clouds. All they have to do is not touch the cloud, basically, if you're flying by looking out the window. Whereas in Class E, they have to maintain, 3 152s. You have to have 3 miles of visibility, be 1,000 above, 500 feet below, or 2,000 feet away from it laterally. What that window gives is a buffer zone so that a plane that's flying IFR by instruments that's coming out of a cloud is going to have a little bit of time to react if there just happens to be a VFR aircraft outside that thing so that they can see it and avoid it, right? That's why you don't want to have full-scale airplanes right up against clouds, and that's why we also have our own rules about staying away from clouds, right? Because if you can't see it, you can't see it. All right. Now, let's talk about what this Class G airspace looks like on our sectional charts. For one, if it's going to be Class G from the surface, there's not going to be a marking because that's just everywhere. If it's from the 700, this Class D airspace is the perfect example. So we have Class D on the inside, right? And then you notice this magenta shading. Okay, what that magenta shading is for is that's telling you that inside of this area we have Class E, we have Class G from the surface up to 700 feet instead of our normal surface to 1,200 feet. So it's a little step down, just like you can see this Class G is kind of taller right here, and then it steps down in close to the Class D. That's exactly what this area is depicting. Right here, you've got the surface up to 1,200 feet AGL is Class G, and above 1,200 is Class E. Once you get inside of this, from the surface to 700 feet is Class G, and from 700 feet AGL up is Class E. And then once you get inside this blue line, there's no Class G at the surface at all because it's Class D all the way to the surface. And then outside of that soup can looking thing is Class E airspace again. Does that make sense to everybody that's in here in the voice chat? I'm going to assume it does unless somebody chimes in. Now, we also have some areas where they bring the Class Echo airspace all the way down to the surface at the field, right? And when you have something like that, let's see if I can find one around here. Oh, let me drag you. Gotta be some somewhere. All of these, you see, it's got that magenta shading. That is Class G from the surface up to 700 feet. It's not giving me any that have Class E to the surface. Come on, help a brother out. Okay, found one. Zoom the right way. Okay, this is Anniston Regional Airport right here. And once again, in the outside area, we have our Class G from the surface 700. And then this, thank you, Scooter FPV, inside of the this magenta dashed line, that is what it looks like when you have no Class G airspace at all. It is only Class Echo all the way to the surface, just like what it looks like at this airport here. No G, just E to the surface. And that is going to do it for your normal airspace types. We have Class A, which is the most restrictive. It is from 18,000 to 60,000 feet MSL. Class B, which you can fly in with authorization. That is going to be from it's going to be the upside down looking wedding cake that's around your busiest airports. C, which is a little bit less busy airports. D, a little bit less. Now, all of those you can get authorization through Lance or through the waiver system to fly in. Class E, you for the most part, if it's Class E at the surface, like with this airport, Inside of this ring, you would also actually need to get authorization to fly in that, but there's an exception that we'll get to in a minute. And then Class G, which you can fly in without authorization anytime you want, and that's typically where we're flying at most spots that you go and fly. Because it is the ground airspace. It's from the surface to typically 1,200 feet, which is a solid 800 feet higher than we're allowed to fly anyways. We only get to go up to 400 feet AGL. Now we are going to dive into some special use airspaces. And this is where it gets a little bit trickier. So the first one that we're going to talk about is a really easy one. It is military training routes. Now, military training routes are depicted by these gray lines. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Oh, the wrong thing. See if I can zoom in a little bit tighter because they're really hard to see. So this VR1054, that is a military training route, this solid gray line. And this is a question on the written exam, is how wide are they? They are a total of 8 miles wide. It's 4 miles either side of the center line, and the center line is depicted here. Another question that is a question on the written exam is how do you know how the elevation? If it has 4 numbers in the VR, some of them have 4 numbers, like 4 digits. 1054. Some of them will be 3, like 105. If it has 4 digits, then it has no sections above 1,500 feet AGL, meaning all of the military training that is happening on this route is done within 1,500 feet of the ground. Because a lot of the military aircraft, if you think about it, radar works line of sight. So if there's a tree here, they can't see anything low over here. So if you want to avoid radar picking you up, you do it by flying low. So most of your military training routes are going to be low and close to the ground, right? But some of them have segments that are above 1,500 feet AGL, and those will only have 3 digits. All right. So that now we can fly in a military training route. That is technically Class E. You can fly in that airspace. And you don't need any prior authorization. Let's see. This little blue with the dashed line, that's a wilderness area. It's not going to be restricted for drone stuff, but I just figured I'd mention it since it's there. We do have an area. This is, where are we at? Talladega, Anniston. It's probably a military thing. This solid magenta dash line is an area of national security. It is legal to fly in that area. It is not smart to, right? Our blue dash line here with the R, that is restricted airspace, and restricted airspace you are not allowed to fly in. Real quick, let me check something. It's prohibited, restricted. One more. I'm gonna have trouble finding. And also, restricted is not always in use. Restricted airspace is used by the military for training. Sometimes it's live ordnance testing, like they'll be shooting missiles or dropping bombs, but it's not always in use. And the way that you're going to figure out if it is in use or not is, okay, we're going to have to zoom out on our map here. Now this is R2102, or yeah, R2102 A, B, and C. They're probably stacked on top of each other vertically. You come over here into the side of the chart, and you're going to have a list of, wait, that's the control tower info. Side are we on? Okay. You're going to have a list, and this is where they're going to tell you the altitude for that restricted airspace and also when it is active. So you got 2102 A, B, and C. Subarea A is surface to 8,000 feet. Subarea B, 8,000 to 14,000. And subarea C, 14,000 to 24,000. Now, when is it active? From 0600 to 2200, intermittent, 6 hours in advance. Now, you can find out whether or not it is active by checking your NOTAMs, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves. here. For now, I just want you guys to know what it looks like and know that if it is active, you can't fly in it. That's all you need to know. If it's not active, then you can fly in it. All right. Now, next down on our list of military airspaces are MOAs. That is a military area of a military operations area, a MOA. Let's see if I can find one of those. It looks very similar to the to your restricted areas, but they are much bigger and a different color. So just like the restricted area was blue with this box with the lines hashed in it, our MOAs are going to be magenta. Now this in particular is the Snowbird MOA. And if you want to find out information about it, you just come up here and look it up. Snowbird MOA is 11,000, and that is the floor of the MOA, and it extends from the floor, whatever is stated, up to 18,000 feet. Oh no, I zoomed in too far. I don't know if you guys can read that or not. Okay, that's interesting. I broke it. There we go. There we go. Altitudes indicate the floor of the MOA, and the MOA extends up to 18,000 feet unless otherwise stated. Now, your MOAs, you can fly in a MOA. Let me just, yep. Just fly with caution because there could be military training going on. But there's no restrictions against flying in a MOA. Other types of special use airspace are done restricted, prohibited. National security. Wait. No, that's a purple box. We'll get to it. Okay, another area that you will have is the Air Defense Identification Zone, or an ADIZ. And an ADIZ, where's my charts? We're gonna go to World VFR. Oh, I'm clicking on the wrong screen. World VFR. We'll just seamlessly go from one to the other. Loading. Give it a second. All right, I'm gonna try to refresh the tab because it is not wanting to play along. What's the difference between MSL and AGL? The naked pilot asks. So MSL is a measurement of altitude above mean sea level, or in other words, average sea level. So the sea level goes up and down with the tides. They take an average of that, and then we're talking elevation over that height. AGL is above ground level. Whoa. So if that's interesting. Can't open the page. Huh. Is Sky Vector down? I mean, obviously the stream is going on, so it can't be the internet. Right? Okay, there we go. Coming back up now. I don't know what's going on. But so AGL is above ground level, and it just means that it's a measurement that's going to follow the contours of the Earth. So if you're 700 feet above ground level, that can climb and go down with the mountain, and you can pass through various elevations of MSL and still be at the exact same level AGL. All right. It's kind of helping me. The ADIZ, I'll just explain what it is real quick. Yay, we're moving. It's the Air Defense Identification Zone, and it is forms a circle around the United States. Basically, it's an area where if somebody's flying on an international flight plan, as you come through the ADIZ, you have to identify yourself. Air Defense Identification Zone. And it is shown on the charts as this magenta with the dots all around it. We are not allowed to fly drones there, but for the most part, it's going to be in places where that's going to be irrelevant anyways, like out here over the ocean. For most people flying FPV most of the time, that is going to be completely irrelevant. Okay? What else we got now? Back to. Other special use airspaces, military training routes. Oh, the last one is going to be temporary flight restrictions. This is going to be for things like sporting events or the president is in town. That is an area where they temporarily say no planes, okay? And that also means no drones. And it looks like I just saw one a second ago. For the most part, you're not going to find out about TFRs or temporary flight restrictions because of a sectional chart. You're going to find out about them when you get your weather briefing, and we will talk about that when I get to the weather section about if you want to check the weather for a certain area. But this is a TFR that's going on for aerial demonstrations effective on the 11th from 1430 Zulu to the 11th at 2100 Zulu. If you're sitting there scratching your head, what is Zulu? Zulu is a universal time zone that is used for aviation because planes travel great distances. And as you are probably aware, like New York and LA don't have the same time. And so that everybody is on the same page, in aviation, we deal with Zulu time, which is actually Greenwich Mean Time, or what time it is in Greenwich, England. On the East Coast, I haven't thought about it in a while because I haven't flown full scale in a while. We are usually 4 or 5 hours off, I think it is. Or maybe it's 5 or 6. Doesn't matter. It's always ahead of us. You can look up what Greenwich Mean Time is on your cell phone. And yeah, something that's going to come up later when we start talking about aviation weather. All right, does anybody have any questions that they would like answered having to do with airspace? Because we've pretty much covered what all the airspace looks like on a sectional chart. We've gone over where you find the various types of airspace, and that's going to be the bulk of it. After this, we're just going to go over some of the written exam questions having to do with airspace and let you see what those look like and kind of talk about if there's any kind of gotchas or anything. Oh, my YouTube chat crashed. I need to refresh that. If you've been asking questions on YouTube chat, I hadn't been able to see them for a minute. All right, well, if nobody's got any questions, I am just going to dive right into some written exam test prep stuff. I should have had a tab open with this right already. I personally like to use the King School written exam test prep, mainly because I can break it down to different sections. Let's go over here. I should be able to run this, and I also can close out. Actually, I'm gonna want to close it. All right, so this is the King Schools FAA Part 107 test prep. And the reason that I like to use the King Schools is because I can come down here and decide exactly what areas I want to be asked questions on. So we're going to uncheck everything that doesn't have to do with what we talked about. And there is a little bit of a... yeah, you know, we're going to get some questions on weather minimums, which we didn't really go into tonight, but it's going to be good enough. So I'm going to just do like 20 questions. Stream is cutting in and out. Yeah, Derek, I did. If anybody was trying to come in last Thursday, I had a little bit of a snafu. I got AT&T and the AT&T upload speeds. They were only giving me 1 megabyte per second upload. Like, that wasn't enough to stream in 720p. I had to like cancel a stream and delay it until this week. Getting some complaints over on Discord about the stream quality. I'm not sure what to say about that. I will have to do some more tests this week and get it up. I feel like all it needed was a restart. That's probably what it was. Next week, plan to do a restart. Let me just double check on here. Make sure like my VPN isn't going or something weird like that. No. What is that? That's Discord. Okay. Well, I'm not going to worry about it too much right now. I'm just going to dive into some of the written exam questions. And let's go. As we go through these, I will make it a point to kind of go over some of the how and why under what it is. All right. Under what condition, if any, may you operate an unmanned aircraft in a restricted area? That's going to be, you can operate with the controlling agency's authorization. I do believe it is. Yeah. Yeah, if you have explicit permission, then you can do it. So back to real quick while we're at it. Did I close out the sectional? I did. Of course I did, and then I need it. It doesn't matter. Remember where I showed you guys where you can find the information about when the area is hot? Right next to that, it says who the controlling agency is so that you know who it is that you have to get in touch with in order to get that permission. If for some reason you just have to operate in a hot restricted area. So with the controlling agency's authorization. Refer to after receiving authorization from air traffic control to operate a small unmanned aircraft near Minot International Airport while the control tower is operation, which radio communication frequency would be used to monitor manned aircraft ATC communications? Okay, so here is figure 21, and here is the Minot International Airport. Now, we didn't go over all of the specific info for blocks for the airports, but this is all of the information having to do with this airport. Right here, CT, that's for control tower, and that's the frequency that the control tower is on, right? And it is also that C in the solid. Thank you for that Patreon pledge there, bro. In that C, that means that that is the what's the word I'm looking for? I'm drawing a blank. Common Traffic Advisory Frequency, CTAF. I couldn't remember what it stood for. I knew it was CTAF, but I was just drawing a blank. So that is the Common Traffic Advisory Frequency. So whenever, what that means is that the control tower isn't 24/7. At night, they'll shut down and it'll be an uncontrolled airport. And that is the frequency that all the pilots tell each other what they're talking on. But for this question, all you need to know is the control tower is at CT and it's 118.2. Boom, right here. That's what you're going to listen to monitor the ATC communications. All right. Next up, what is the approximate latitude and longitude of Cooperstown Airport? Now, this is one that I like to do. Whenever it has to do with latitude and longitude, I will use a little bit of just deductive reasoning. For instance, we have, if you look at the north-south, we have 4725, 4725, 4755. So really there's only two options in the north-south. And if it's not along 47 degrees, 25 minutes north, if it's on 47 degrees, 55 minutes north, that's all we have to figure out. And then we can disregard the rest. So let's look at this sectional and talk about our lines of longitude and latitude. Now, the lines of longitude and latitude on the sectional chart are depicted by these black lines with hash marks, right? And if you look along in every line is for 30 minutes of longitude or latitude. And we can look and find one, see, right here, 47 degrees. So this is 47 degrees north. This is 47 degrees, 30 minutes north. Now, what airport are we looking for? Longitude and latitude of Cooperstown. So you can see that it's not quite far enough north to get to the 47 degrees 30 minutes. So it's going to be one of those 47 25s. So that means that we can rule out answer C. So it's going to either be 99 degrees 54 minutes west or 98 degrees 6 minutes west. So let's come down here and decide. I'm going to turn off me for a second so that you guys can see. So I'm not blocking some of this diagram. And let's find, okay. So now we have, this is the 98 degrees west, And our Cooperstown is just a little bit beyond 98. So this is 98.30, and it's nowhere near 98.30. And 99 is going to be like way on over here. So it's not 99.54. It's definitely 98.06. So just by reducing our options, we know that it is option A. All right, moving on. The elevation of the Chesapeake Regional Airport. This is going to get back into our blocks of information. You know what? Since we're getting a bunch of questions on this, I might as well just go ahead and give you guys a rundown of all the info that is in that. And we are looking for Area 2, Chesapeake Regional. Some of these, it's kind of busy. So right here is Area 2. That's not actually on a sectional chart. That's just for this diagram. And you can see, if I zoom in, does that work? Yeah, it does do the zoom on the stream as well. Okay, so you can see here we have the Chesapeake Regional Airport. The CPK is for the, that is the identifier. Now AWOS, that is an automated weather observation station. It is on 123.875. We'll talk more about what AWOS is versus METARs and TAFs when we do the weather stream. The elevation right here is 19 feet. Okay, and that's going to be the most important for this. Our longest runway is 5,500. Common traffic advisory 123.075. Right hand pattern for runway 23. Most of that is information that you will never need as a drone pilot, but they're going to ask you this crap on your written exam. So you need to know that your elevation is down here in the bottom left. Now, come back up here. We're at 19 feet. Boom. Answered. Now, but here's the thing is you got to employ a little bit of logic on these tests, because maybe you don't remember, like, if you don't remember where it is that the elevation is, always remember my number one thing. If it's a question about a sectional chart, go to the legend. The legend is going to be in your book of diagrams. It's right there in the front, and there's a breakdown of that block of data for every airport, and they tell you what all of the numbers are. So if you can't remember a question about your sectional charts, go to the legend. Now the other thing is, just let's use reasoning and deduction here and see what we could have gotten to. Our options are 19, 36, or 360. If you come down here and you look at this data block, what numbers do you see? I don't see a 360 in any of those numbers for the Chesapeake Regional. I don't see a 36 anywhere in those numbers for Chesapeake Regional. The only number that even shows up in this data block for that airport is 19. So even if you didn't know which one of the numbers it is, you can deduce what the answer is, because it's the only number that's showing up in that data block, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. Always try to break these things down and use reason to answer it where you can. All right. I'm clicking on the wrong screen. And next up, we have, with certain exceptions, Class E airspace extends upward from either 700 feet or 1,200 feet AGL, but does not include what altitude. That Class E airspace is going to be our everywhere else airspace, and it always ends at 18,000 feet MSL, because above 18,000 feet MSL is Class Alpha airspace. So, to answer our question, we have 18,000 feet MSL. It never goes above that. All right. You've been hired to inspect the tower under construction at 46.9 north and 98.6 west near Jamestown Airport. What must you receive prior to flying your unmanned aircraft in this area? Let's see. Figure 26, Area 4. Here's Area 4, Jamestown Airport. We're looking for 46.9 north, 98.6 west. So this is 47 degrees north. 46.9. So it ought to be just south of this line here. And 98.6. If you remember from our earlier question about this diagram, that's 98. That's 98.5. So 98.6. We can assume that it is probably this tower right here, right? 1726. This is what a tower looks like on a sectional. We didn't go over towers. We're just briefly, we're covering what we come to in the written exam. I didn't do a section on sectional charts. I guess I could have gone more in depth on the sectional charts tonight. My apologies. This 1727 is the elevation of that tower in MSL. Sometimes they give you multiple elevations, like this one over here. That solid number is 1708 is the elevation of the top of that tower in MSL, and the 320 below it, that is the elevation of that tower in AGL. This one doesn't actually give you any AGL data. Not all of them do. Now, what must you receive prior to flying your unmanned aircraft in this area? It's going to be authorization from ATC. And the reason that you need the authorization from ATC is because you are inside of this magenta dashed line, which means that Class Echo airspace comes all the way to the surface. And it is in association with a instrument approach procedure. So that one is going to be applied. I'm not going to get into the exceptions for Class Echo airspace. There are times when you don't need it, but it's very, very rare. The only time that you can fly in Class Echo airspace without the authorization, I don't want to muddy the waters that much. If this was a Class D airspace where it was a solid blue circle here, and then you had a little bit of an addition of Class Echo to the to surface outside of it, inside of that, it's not the primary surface of a controlling tower. In that scenario, you don't need ATC authorization. The best bet to do any of this stuff is going to be to just use the Lance system. If we're talking about FPV type of drones, you're not going to be flying on airports typically. If you are, then it's going to be a much higher level of production, and you're probably not going to be the guy dealing with getting the waivers. If it's anything for just your recreational use and maybe making some YouTube videos and maybe filming a commercial, the way to go is use AirMap for the Lance authorization, and you can just pull up AirMap on your phone and see very easily whether or not it's going to be required. If you want to get more info on how to get Lance authorization, please go check out the video that I have on that. I'll add a link in the description when the stream's over. I just can't stop right now. All right, got that. Moving on. Under what conditions may a pilot fly under VFR within 60 nautical miles of the DCA VOR in Washington, D.C.? Now, this is talking about the I'm drawing a blank on it. They instituted all this crap after I got my private pilot, and I almost never dealt with it. God, it's the DC airspace that within 60 miles of the VOR, there are no conditions under which you can fly. Okay. That's all you need to know. SFRA. I can't remember what that stands for, but the point is that you can't do it. It's just off limits. Done. 60 miles of DC, done. What is the maximum allowable ground speed for a UAV beneath Class B airspace? That is going to be 100 knots. Is that right? No, it's 90 knots and 100 miles per hour. Oh, crap. It's been, I'm just going to tell you right now, I did not do any preparation for tonight's stream. I'm just relying on my memory. I may get this one wrong, and my apologies. Figure 20, area 2. We'll check in a minute when we grade it. Why would the small flag at Lake Drummond of the sectional chart be important to a remote pilot? So it's referring to this flag right here, and that flag is a visual waypoint. what it is if you're coming into the Norfolk Airport here as a full-scale pilot, that is, and you're flying along VFR, reference to the outside, and you want to land at Norfolk, you have to make an initial contact. You got to call up approach control. And when you talk to them, you want to tell them where you're at. And you can do that by telling them in reference to radio beacons, or you could do that with like fixes. But a common way for just VFR pilots is to just say, hey, I'm over the Lake Drummond, because it's a visual waypoint. And the reason that it's important for drone pilots is because that means that there's going to be a lot of traffic over Lake Drummond. Now, is any of that traffic going to be below 400 feet AGL where we're allowed to operate? No. So I don't know why they're asking you this. Again, this is common sense airspace for drone pilots, and but it's a VFR checkpoint for manned aircraft, and a higher volume of air traffic could be expected there. But they're going to be at least like 1,500 feet AGL, if not higher. Probably more like 2,000 or 3,000 feet. So not a concern to drones. Figure 78. What class of airspace is associated with the Sioux Gateway Airport? Sioux Gateway is right here. And as you can see, it has a blue dash line around it. Can anybody remember what that is? Bueller. That is going to be your Class D airspace. All right. Pilots flying over a national wildlife refuge are requested to fly no lower than 2,000 feet AGL, which is higher than you're allowed to fly your drone. So why are they asking you this? I can't tell you what it is. He's right. It is 87. I know it's 100 miles an hour, and then whatever that translates to, I just couldn't remember it off the top of my head. Now that he said, I'm going to thank you, Leafy FPV, for the answer. And 87 knots or 100 miles per hour. Okay. Whoa, that changed my answer. Why did it change my answer? It's 2,000 feet AGL over wildlife refuge areas. Remember, I showed you the wildlife area that was the solid blue line with the little dots. That's what they look like on a sectional chart, if you ever need to know. Which airport is located at approximately 47 degrees, 34 minutes? I don't see a Johnson. I'm going to go ahead and rule that one out as an option. And 100 degrees, 44 minutes, 0 seconds west. So we got 101 here. And so that's 100 degrees, 30 minutes west. And we're looking for 44. So like about halfway between those two. That is going to be McKeef, because Turtle Lake is almost, it's going to be more like 50 minutes or so. Looks like McKeef is our answer. And boom. All right. Determine the approximate latitude and longitude of Shoshone County Airport. Now, since this one has multiple options, I would like to narrow it down. We've got, you notice the three options here. I can't tell a difference just by eyeballing it between 33 minutes and 32 minutes north. I mean, if I got a plotter out and, you know, had a piece of paper, yeah, I could probably tell the difference. But just looking at these screens, for all intents and purposes, those are the same, and these are the same. So let's look and see how many degrees north it is. Area 3, Shoshone County Airport. Here's Area 3. There's Shoshone County. We're basically, so that's 48 degrees north. So this line is 4730. So it's like 47, 33, 32, kind of what we're looking at. So answer A is off the books. So now the question is it a 116.11 or 116.41 west? And we have 116 here. Shoshone County is not past the 30-minute mark, so it's definitely 116.11. And that narrows it down to B being our answer. Refer to Figure 26, Area 5. The airspace overlying and within 5 miles of Barnes County Airport is... Okay. Area 5, Barnes County. Do I have a 5? There's a 5. Barnes County Airport, right? And now it is asking about the airspace overlying and within 5 miles of the airport. So what they're talking about is this shaded magenta area, which if you were catching earlier in the stream, you would know that that depicts an area in which the Class G airspace is only 700 feet thick, meaning from the surface to 700 feet AGL, we have Class G airspace, and above that, we have Class E. Now, what are the answers here? We got Class G airspace from the surface to 700 feet. All right, a blue segmented circle on a sectional chart depicts what class of airspace? That would be Class D. Class C is a solid magenta line. Class B is a solid blue line. Refer to Figure 20, Area 5. The caution box denotes what hazard to aircraft? Section 5. This one is an easy one because it actually tells you right there. I can find it. Oh. Really? Area 5? Oh, okay, here we go. Caution, unmarked balloon on cable, 3000 MSL. Check NOTAMs. Unmarked balloon. Wait, is it AGL or MSL? I just said it. 3,800 MSL. So an unmarked balloon on a cable up to 3,008 feet MSL. Boom. 17. The lateral dimensions of Class D airspace are based on. It's always Class D is always a soup can. It's not. It's almost never like unique. I'm not gonna say never because then I'll just get proven wrong by something. It's always 5 statute miles from the geographic center of the primary airport. Watch, it's gonna be C. I hate these gotchas. That's the problem with these. But the good news is for the your Part 107 written exam, all you got to do is get a 70, so you can afford to miss 30% of the questions. If you have a basic general knowledge, you're going to be way, way better than that. Man, I don't know why, but I think my computer needed a restart prior to tonight's stream. Because I'm having like it shut down on my YouTube comments, it's shutting down on this. People are saying that it's coming and going. I'm just having all sorts of struggles tonight. All right, Figure 23. The flag symbol at Statesboro, Bullock County Airport, Claxton Evans Airport, and Ridgeland Airport are these flags, just like our previous question. That flag denotes a visual waypoint. That is visual checkpoints to identify the position for initial call-up prior to entering the Savannah airspace. Also, that would be a piece of information that you could find in a legend. If you don't know the answer to it, look at the legend on your written exam. During pre-flight planning, you plan to operate in restricted area 2305. Where would you find additional information regarding this airport? That is the special use airspace area of the chart. The chart supplements, that is the new they used to call that the airport facilities directory. Now they call it the chart supplements. That's not going to be relevant for almost anything that you do with drones. And this is talking about a restricted area, which looks like this blue solid line with the little hash marks on the inside. The reason that this line has hash marks on either side is because it's circling a restricted area over here and it's circling a restricted area over here, and that's why it's got hash marks on either side of the line. And you would find the information about the altitudes that it's at and when it's active and what the controlling agency is in the special use airspace area of the sectional chart. All right, refer to Figure 24, Area 1 for information about the parachute jumping at Caddo Mills Airport. Refer to the... all right. So Catamills, Area 1. Let's see if I can find it so I can show you what they're pointing to. Here we go. Catamills, and you see this little parachute guy here? That is, I'm thinking, this is a question about flying drones in the SFRA around DC. No, it's a question about flying full-scale aircraft VFR within 60 miles of the DCA. Yes, if you're flying a full-scale aircraft, you can fly within 60 miles of the DCA VOR as long as you've gone through the special awareness training sorry. Yeah. I was misled. I thought we were talking drones. We were not. That sucks. Okay. Lateral dimension of Class D. See, like I said, it's the instrument procedures for which the controlled airspace is established. But Class D airspace is almost always a soup can. That one gets me too. And that's going to be it. I got 90%, which is good enough for government work. Does anybody here in the voice chat have any questions or anything you'd like me to go over again? Otherwise, I think that's going to wrap it up for our generic Part 107 airspace tutorial. No? All right, I'm gonna have to get y'all more active in the next live stream, but I will be hanging out on Discord for a while after tonight's stream. I hope that you learned something about airspace and how it applies to drones, in particular for passing your Part 107 written exam. Wait, I see people unmuting. You got questions, Josh? All right. If you'd like to join us, I'm going to be doing this every week. We're going to go over one aspect at a time of Part 107 test prep. Next week, we will be going over weather. That's going to be your METARs, your TAFs, your radar images, and all of the questions relating to weather forecasts and weather phenomenon for drone purposes. And that is going to be for the patrons only. So if you want to catch that, be sure to click the link below in the description and sign up for the Part 107 course. It is $50 a month, but most Part 107 courses that you're going to find online are going to be more like $150 to $200, and this is going to get you in with a small select group going over this material on a weekly basis with me. Eventually, I'm going to have a backlog of catalog, and when you sign up for it, you're going to be able to just view all of that, and we'll have interactive lessons once a week. But I'll continue to include one of these every month over here on my YouTube channel where everybody gets to join in. So I hope you found it useful, and I hope to see you on a future stream. With that, I'm going to bounce out. I'll be over on Discord, though, for a while if you want to come hang out. So catch you guys later.